The thing about a lie is it never travels alone. It brings company. Small inconsistencies, half-truths, a stray receipt that shouldn't exist. It's never just one lie. That's how I knew Kaylee wasn't just coming back from a business trip when she pulled into our driveway that Thursday night, humming along to the radio like she hadn't just spent the weekend betraying me. For 3 days, I'd sat with the knowledge she thought was still hidden. It started with a simple email. A glitch, really? Kaylee always used my rewards account for bookings, airlines, hotels, dinner reservations because, in her words, you're better with the points. I never thought twice about it. Until the reservation confirmation landed in my inbox. A table for 2 at Le Rêve, one of Seattle's most romantic restaurants. Candlelit, Riverside, and the kind of place people propose at. I remembered the tagline from their website, where unforgettable memories are made. Not exactly the place for a client meeting. Her name was on the booking. The second guest? Unlisted. But I didn't need a name. The intent was clear enough. I sat there, staring at that email, feeling this dull, hollow ache settle into my chest. Not rage. Not yet. Just a sinking realization. By the time Kaylee returned, that ache had hardened into something sharper. Something that watched her every move, cataloging the way she smiled too wide, how her voice climbed an octave when she said, "Hi, babe." The way her phone stayed glued to her hand even as she fumbled with her suitcase. Long trip. Seattle's meetings are the worst, she said, rolling her shoulders like she carried the weight of the world. A perfectly normal complaint. Perfectly casual. Perfectly rehearsed. Yeah, I said, voice flat. Bet they are. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and pretended not to. Either way, she kept moving, pulling her suitcase up the steps, breezing through the front door as if it was any other night. Then it happened, the smallest betrayal. A business card fluttered out of her bag, landing face up on the hardwood floor. Christopher Malone, private jeweler. I picked it up, thumbing the smooth edges. Minimalist design. Black ink on cream cardstock. Expensive. Thoughtful. Personal. Oh, that, she said with a light laugh, as if I'd caught her with an expired coupon. Funny story, he did this whole presentation for our team. Luxury branding strategies or whatever. Total corporate fluff. She waved it off, dismissing the very idea that I'd be interested. But I watched her eyes. The way they avoided mine. The way her fingers tapped the countertop, 3 quick beats like she was counting down to when this conversation could be over. It was subtle. But it was there. The cracks beneath her smile. And that's when I realized she hadn't slipped up. This wasn't a careless mistake. She had an answer ready for every possibility. She was prepared for questions. For suspicion. But not for what I already knew. The reservation. The names. The date. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I told myself I needed more. Proof, sure, but also time. Time to process that the woman I built my life around had built a second life without me. The rest of that evening played out like theater. She poured herself a glass of wine, Chardonnay, her wind-down drink sank into the couch and scrolled through her phone. Laughing at texts that were never shared with me. Asking vague questions about my day. Filling space with noise. I answered mechanically. Half of me was still stuck on that email. The other half wondered if Christopher Malone was her first. Or just the latest. When she excused herself to take a quick call outside, I stayed rooted to the couch, staring at the business card on the coffee table. Private jeweler. Not corporate. Not for bulk orders or promotional gifts. Private meant personal. I remembered her telling me months ago how she wanted a new necklace. Something simple but meaningful, she said. I'd planned to surprise her with one for our anniversary. Now, I wondered if Christopher had beaten me to it. As she stepped back inside, her voice was bright, but her fingers were tightening around her phone like it might betray her. Sorry, that was Cynthia from work. Crisis as usual, she said. Cynthia didn't exist. Or maybe she did in Kaylee's imaginary list of excuses. I didn't call her out. Not yet. Instead, I studied her the way you study a puzzle with one wrong piece. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear too carefully. The way her smile lingered a second too long. It was all there in the small details. That night, after she fell asleep, I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling. The soft glow of her phone lit up the nightstand every few minutes with notifications. She'd silenced them, but not the screen. Curiosity, no instinct, made me glance at the previews. Names I didn't recognize. Messages that disappeared within seconds. I didn't need to read them all. The pattern spoke volumes. As the hours dragged on, I thought back to how we met. College sweethearts. Late-night coffee runs. Her scribbling notes on my laptop because she said my handwriting was criminal. The kind of memories that build a life. It was strange how easily she could dismantle it all. Yet part of me still hoped there was some explanation. Some sliver of misunderstanding that would make this all go away. But that email, that restaurant, that business card, those weren't mistakes. They were choices. When she stirred beside me, murmuring something incoherent in her sleep, I almost pitied her. Almost. Because tomorrow I'd be picking up her car from the airport parking lot. She always left it there after trips. Routine. Predictable. And maybe, just maybe, it would tell me the truth she refused to. But for tonight I stayed silent. Watching. Waiting. Because Kaylee might think she's a good liar. But the thing about lies? They're terrible at staying hidden. The morning after Kaylee returned, the house was unusually quiet. She claimed to be working from home, though most of her time was spent in her office with the door slightly ajar, murmuring on calls that never seemed to end. I went through my morning routine like clockwork: coffee, toast, mindless scrolling through news feeds I wasn't reading. But beneath that surface, something gnawed at me. The business card, the restaurant, her smile, it was all unfinished business. Around lunchtime I grabbed my keys. Heading out to grab a few things I called, more for myself than for her. "Okay, babe," she chirped from behind her office door. Too bright. Too casual. It sounded like a line from a play. But today wasn't about groceries. Kaylee always left her car at the airport long-term lot when she traveled. She liked the control of having it nearby when she landed. "I hate waiting for Ubers," she'd complain. But this time she hadn't mentioned her car. She hadn't mentioned much at all. I took my car straight to the lot, rolling through rows of parked vehicles until I spotted her sleek black SUV, gleaming under the late morning sun. The moment I unlocked it, I felt like an intruder in my own marriage. But this wasn't snooping. Not anymore. This was defense. The interior was spotless, as always. Kaylee was meticulous, at least when it came to appearances. But appearances lie. I started with the obvious spots. Center console, nothing. Door pockets, empty. But then, the glove compartment. That's where I found them. 2 crisp, glossy tickets. Emerald Stage Theater. Friday night. 8 p.m. Orchestra Center. Front and center seats. The kind of seats you had to book weeks in advance. The kind of seats people reserved for anniversaries, celebrations, for someone they wanted to impress. Friday night. The same Friday night she told me she'd been stuck in meetings. Working late. Too swamped for even a phone call. I stared at the tickets, the reality pressing in on me. Kaylee and I had never been into theater. It wasn't her thing, and it wasn't mine. She didn't have a close circle of friends that would drag her to something like this, let alone justify lying about it. There was only one explanation. Christopher Malone. I could picture it too easily. Kaylee dressed to the nines, laughing over wine, her hand brushing his as the lights dimmed. She'd sat in those seats with him while I was home, thinking she was working late, heating up leftovers, trusting her. I leaned back in the driver's seat, letting out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't innocent. Yet, when I returned home that afternoon, Kaylee greeted me like nothing had happened. "Did you get everything you needed?" she asked, looking up from her laptop. "Yeah," I said, setting the car keys on the kitchen counter, right next to the tickets, now burning a hole in my pocket. She smiled, completely at ease, as if her entire double life wasn't teetering on the edge of exposure. That smile used to mean everything to me. Now it felt like a mask. Over dinner I decided to test the waters. "So, how was last Friday?" "Must have been brutal with those late meetings." Her fork paused midway to her mouth, just a fraction of a second. If I hadn't been watching so closely, I would have missed it. "Oh, you know," she said with a sigh, resuming her bite, "the usual corporate circus. Long hours, no results. Glad it's over. Flawless. Smooth. A lie delivered with the grace of practice." I nodded, playing my part. But inside, something cracked. That was the moment I understood digging deeper would uncover everything. And no matter how much it hurt, I needed to keep going. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her sitting in that theater, leaning into him, living a life outside of us. A life where I was just a prop. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I'd been holding back, hoping for a sign that this was all some grand misunderstanding. That the restaurant was a fluke, the tickets a favor, the business card a coincidence. But lies don't align that neatly unless they're built that way. I needed more than gut feelings and circumstantial evidence. Kaylee's tablet was left charging on the kitchen counter, right where she always left it. Careless. Or confident. Maybe she truly believed I was still the trusting fool she married. I picked it up, heart pounding. The passcode hadn't changed. A small, pathetic part of me hoped I'd find nothing. That I'd open her messages and be embarrassed by my paranoia. But deep down, I knew better. The conversation threads told the real story. Christopher Malone. The name stared back at me like a neon sign. Their messages weren't lurid, not in the explicit sense. But they didn't need to be. Can't wait to see you again. Friday was perfect. Next weekend, same sweet. I want to make it special for us. You looked stunning. Like always. Photos. Smiles meant for someone else. Candid moments of them together. A hotel booking confirmation for an upcoming weekend. Honeymoon suite. Rose petals on the bed. Anniversary package. Ours wasn't for another 4 months. I closed the tablet slowly, placing it back where I found it. Kaylee had crossed a line long ago. This wasn't an affair in its early stages. This was established. Rehearsed. Ongoing. But I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. I needed her to believe the lie still held. Because people reveal the most when they think you're still blind. That day, I called in a favor from an old college buddy who now worked in private security. Discreet surveillance. Nothing invasive. Just confirmation of what I already knew. By the time evening rolled around, Kaylee was back to her routine. Wine glass in hand. Phone screen tilted away. Smiling at things she wouldn't share. When she kissed me goodnight, there was a moment, a flicker in her eyes, where I wondered if she felt even a fraction of the guilt she should have. But guilt, I was learning, is a luxury reserved for those who haven't yet convinced themselves they're the victim. As I lay awake, staring at the ceiling again, I felt something shift. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This wasn't me grasping at shadows. This was fact. Kaylee was having an affair. And tomorrow, the evidence would start stacking higher. By the next evening, the illusion was already cracking. My friend, Nathan, had texted me earlier in the day. Short and to the point, like always. You were right. She's seeing him. Sending you the first report tonight. The words landed like a punch and a relief all at once. Confirmation was painful, but so was not knowing. At least now, the truth was out in the open, even if Kaylee was still busy pretending. The report came by email. Nothing extravagant. Just a PDF with timestamped photos, notes on locations, and enough detail to cut through any remaining doubt. There they were, Kaylee and Christopher, arm in arm, strolling through the city like a couple without a care in the world. Restaurants, coffee shops, even a quiet park bench where she'd once sat with me, dreaming out loud about our future. But that wasn't the part that hit hardest. One particular photo stopped me cold. A small Italian bistro on 5th Avenue. Dim lighting, familiar red awnings, the same place where Kaylee and I had celebrated her promotion 2 years ago. She'd picked it. She said it was our place. Apparently, it was theirs now. I zoomed in, fingers trembling slightly. Kaylee sat across from him, smiling. That soft, vulnerable smile she used to save for me. Christopher leaned in, his hand resting lightly over hers on the table. I couldn't look away. Every pixel of that image felt like a betrayal within a betrayal. She hadn't just been unfaithful, she'd repurposed memories we built together. Places that were ours. Words that were ours. Now given freely to someone else. That stung more than the hotel bookings. More than the jewelry receipts. Because it wasn't just physical. It was emotional. Intentional. Personal. That night, as Kaylee slept soundly in our bed, I sat in the living room, the glow of the tablet screen illuminating every piece of evidence she never meant for me to see. The messages were all there. Open. Unashamed. This weekend's going to be unforgettable. I can't wait to have you all to myself again. I wish you didn't have to sneak around, but it makes what we have even more exciting, doesn't it? She responded with heart emojis, inside jokes, promises of next time. But one thread stood out. Christopher had sent her a photo, an engagement ring. Not extravagant. Tasteful. Classic. For you. When the time is right. Kaylee's reply came almost immediately. It's beautiful. You know how much this means to me. I sat there frozen. My marriage had become a waiting room for her next life. She wasn't hesitating. She was planning. With him. My hands were cold. But my mind was clear. This wasn't salvageable. Kaylee had made sure of that. But still, I didn't confront her. I wasn't ready for a screaming match. I didn't want some teary-eyed monologue about making mistakes or being confused. I didn't need the spectacle. I needed the facts. Clean. Unarguable. So I kept gathering. Every text, every receipt, every appointment she said was work-related. I documented it all. Quietly. Methodically. That week, I tracked the credit card charges she never thought I'd question. A boutique hotel downtown. A high-end spa package for 2. Jewelry purchases from a private jeweler whose card had conveniently fallen out of her bag. When she left her phone unattended, I didn't scroll through her photos. I didn't need to. The synced cloud account gave me everything. Albums filled with images she never shared with me. Dinners with him, weekend getaways, even a selfie of them in bed. It was the nonchalance that hurt. The way she smiled for the camera so effortlessly, as if this betrayal was normal. As if I didn't exist. One night, as she hummed in the kitchen, prepping dinner like nothing had changed, I caught her reflection in the microwave's black glass. She looked content, satisfied, and all I could think was, how long has she been living this double life? How long had I been just a placeholder? I'd stopped sleeping in our bedroom by then. Excuses were easy: late night work, back pain, needing to wake up early. She never pressed. Maybe she knew. Maybe she didn't care. But the more I watched, the clearer it became. She believed she was untouchable, that the deception was seamless, that I, the trusting husband, would stay clueless. The next Friday, she dressed carefully. "Another long day at the office," she said, adjusting her earrings in the mirror. "Late meetings again?" I asked, my tone even. "You know how it is. Crunch time." I nodded, watching her reflection. The lie rolled off her tongue so smoothly, so easily. It was impressive in a morbid way. An hour after she left, Nathan sent me another update. They weren't at the office. Kaylee and Christopher were checked into a boutique hotel across town. The same one from the receipts. The same one she claimed to have never heard of. The photos were time-stamped. Indisputable. I stared at my phone, the weight of the truth no longer suffocating, but strangely clarifying. This wasn't going to be an explosive confrontation. No shouting, no theatrics. When the time came, it would be clinical, surgical. But not yet. For now, I let her believe her performance was flawless. When she returned home that night, past midnight, hair slightly tousled, makeup faded, she smiled. "Sorry, babe. Got caught up in post-meeting drinks. The team insisted." I smiled back. "No worries. Hope it was worth it." "Oh, you know," she said, yawning as she slipped off her heels. Same old, same old, same old." The words echoed in my mind long after she'd gone to bed. The truth was laid out in front of me now, undeniable and complete. Kaylee had crossed every line, and the time for pretense was running out. By now, I had every reason to explode. But I didn't, because rage is loud, and loud makes mistakes. I needed to be smarter than that. For the next 2 weeks, I became an expert in patience. While Kaylee kept up her charade, late meetings, sudden conferences, nights out with friends who didn't exist, I quietly assembled my case. I started with her phone records. Most people don't realize how much you can learn from a simple call log. The times, the durations, the patterns. Christopher's number appeared like clockwork. Morning calls just after I left for work. Long conversations during her lunch breaks. Late-night whispers when she thought I was asleep in the guest room. The audacity was almost admirable. I saved everything. *TS, PDFs. Every scrap of digital evidence that proved her double life. Then came the bank statements. Charges she assumed I wouldn't notice. Luxury boutique purchases, spa visits, upscale hotel bookings. But the cherry on top. Jewelry. Not for me. Never for me. When I confronted my own bank's fraud protection department, under the pretense of an unfamiliar charge, they were surprisingly helpful. Every transaction had a merchant note. One in particular stood out. Custom engagement piece, Christopher Malone. That one hit harder than the rest. An engagement piece. Our marriage had become so devalued to her that she was already laying the groundwork for the next one. And she was using our finances to do it. But still, I stayed quiet. One night, after she had gone out for client drinks, I reached out to a private investigator Nathan had recommended. Discreet, professional, ruthless when it came to the truth. "Call me Lucas," he said, his tone dry, efficient. I gave him everything: names, locations, dates. He barely blinked. "This won't take long," he assured me. True to his word, it didn't. Every few days, Lucas sent me photos, reports, observations. They weren't doing a good job hiding. The same predictable restaurants, the same hotel, The same patterns. But there was one photo that twisted the knife deeper than the rest. Christopher and Kaylee seated in a restaurant that had once been ours. Not some anonymous place, but the very same spot where I had proposed to her 7 years ago. I recognized the table. The corner booth with the ivy backdrop. The place where she had cried happy tears, said yes, and promised me forever. And now there they sat, laughing, sharing a bottle of wine. Her hand on his, the same way she used to reach for mine. That image did something to me. Not anger. Not shock. Just clarity. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't her being confused. This was planned. Calculated. She'd replaced me in her life piece by piece, as casually as swapping out furniture. I documented it all. Digital backups, printed copies, time-stamped evidence. I wasn't going to give her any wiggle room. No chance to gaslight her way out of this. Every lie had a receipt now. But it wasn't just about Kaylee anymore. I dug into Christopher as well. Turns out he had his own secrets. He was married. 2 years. His wife, Julia, was a corporate attorney. Sharp. Respected. Not the kind of person you'd want to cross. I debated reaching out to her. Part of me felt it was the right thing to do. The other part wondered if dragging another person into this mess was necessary. Lucas made the choice easier for me. She already knows, he said during one of our calls. Trust me. And she's not the type to let this slide. That was the first time in weeks I felt something close to satisfaction. While I kept my hands clean, Julia would be lighting her own fires. I could wait. In the meantime, I continued collecting. Building the narrative. Every lie Kaylee told was matched with proof to the contrary. Every fabricated meeting, every fake business dinner, every late night at the office, all cross-referenced, all exposed. I wasn't preparing for a fight. I was preparing for an execution. Quiet. Precise. And still, at home, Kaylee acted as if nothing was amiss. She kissed me goodbye in the mornings. Sent me heart emojis during the day. Asked if I wanted takeout for dinner. It was surreal. Watching her move through our life with the ease of someone who thought she was still in control. But the truth was she was walking straight into the storm. One evening, as she prepared for yet another networking event, I watched her from the hallway. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting a necklace I hadn't seen before. Delicate. Minimalist. It suited her. New. I asked, keeping my tone light. She smiled, that same too-sweet smile. Gift from work. A thank you for the last project. Isn't it pretty? I nodded. It wasn't from work. It was from Christopher. I knew this. She knew I didn't know this. Or so she thought. The house felt heavy after she left. Like every room carried the weight of a lie. But I was done carrying it alone. Lucas's final report arrived that night. It had everything. Dates. Locations. Photos. Witness statements. Even security footage from the boutique hotel's lobby. It was airtight. No room for manipulation. No space for Kaylee's inevitable "it's not what it looks like." I printed every page. Organized them in a folder. Labeled, dated, impossible to refute. I even compiled a spreadsheet detailing the financial impact of her affair, the misuse of joint funds, the assets she thought were hers to squander. By the time I was finished, my hands were steady. There was no anger left. Just resolve. This wasn't about revenge. It was about closure. Truth. Dignity. Kaylee had made her choices. Now it was time for her to live with them. When the time came, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't fireworks or screaming or some Hollywood scene where dishes are thrown and tears come flooding out. No. It was quiet. Surgical. Exactly as I'd planned. Kaylee came home from another client dinner that evening. I was already seated in the living room, lights dimmed, folder in front of me on the coffee table. The house was silent, save for the soft ticking of the wall clock. Funny how loud that gets when you're waiting. She didn't notice the change in atmosphere right away. "Hey, babe," she said, breezing in like it was any other night. She set her keys down, slid off her heels, and started toward the kitchen. "Sorry I'm late. That client from Portland loves to talk." Her tone was light. Practiced. She didn't even flinch when she lied anymore. "Sit down, Kaylee." The words stopped her midstep. Something in my voice, maybe? She turned slowly, confusion flickering across her face. "Everything okay? Sit." She hesitated, probably weighing which version of herself to present. The casual wife? The concerned spouse? She settled on wary curiosity and took a seat across from me. The folder sat between us. I didn't say anything right away. Just watched her. Studied the way her fingers fidgeted, the way she bit the inside of her cheek, a tell she probably thought she'd outgrown. "What's this?" she asked, nodding toward the folder. "Everything," I said. "Every lie. Every meeting. Every hotel. Every purchase you thought you hid. She blinked. A small, almost imperceptible recoil. But she was good. Too good. Mark, I don't. I opened the folder. Laid out the first sheet. A high-resolution photo of her and Christopher. Arm in arm. Walking out of that boutique hotel. Time-stamped. Dated. Her face drained of color. This was last Friday, I said. You told me you were stuck in meetings. She opened her mouth, closed it. No words came. I placed the next sheet down. Another photo. Different day. Same story. Them at our Italian bistro. You said it was a working lunch. Her lips parted again, but the silence was deafening. Next came the bank statements. Jewelry receipts. Spa bookings. Charges that had her fingerprints all over them. You used our joint account, I said, voice steady. Ironic, isn't it? Funding your affair with the life we built together. Tears welled in her eyes. The first real reaction. Mark, I shook my head, cutting her off without raising my voice. No. You had your chance to explain. Weeks of chances, actually. Every time you lied to my face, you could have come clean. You chose not to. A sob escaped her lips then, raw and sudden. But I wasn't moved. Not anymore. This isn't just about an affair, Kaylee, I continued. It's about respect. About trust. About how you took what we had and traded it in for, what? Excitement? A thrill. She was crying now, hands trembling as she tried to wipe the tears away. It wasn't supposed to happen, she whispered. It started as a mistake, I swear. But it kept happening, I said, calm as ever. Because you let it. I placed one final document on the table, the printed email where Christopher had sent her a picture of an engagement ring. For you. When the time is right. I didn't need to say anything more. Kaylee crumbled. I'm so sorry, she choked. Mark, please? It was stupid. I was stupid. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll cut him off. I'll do anything. Her desperation filled the room, but it didn't sway me. I'm not here to negotiate, I said softly. I'm here to tell you it's over. The words hung in the air, final and absolute. I've already filed, I added. The papers are in motion. Her breath hitched like the wind had been knocked out of her. Mark, please? We've been together 10 years. You can't just. I can, I said. And I am. For the first time, her composure shattered completely. She sank into the couch, sobbing openly, the reality of it settling in. But I wasn't angry. I wasn't gloating. There was no satisfaction in her breakdown. Just closure. You didn't just cheat on me, Kaylee, I said, standing up. You replaced me. Piece by piece. And now you're shocked that I refuse to sit here and watch. She tried to reach for my hand, but I stepped back. You made your choice, I said. Now you get to live with it. I left her there, collapsed on the couch, drowning in the aftermath of her own decisions. Upstairs, I shut the door to the guest room, the room that had become my sanctuary during these weeks of quiet war. For the first time in months, the weight in my chest felt lighter. The battle was over.